A service dog barked continuously at a stroller in a busy mall. The mother became angry, security was summoned, and shoppers grew frustrated. But when the blanket was finally removed, what they witnessed moved the entire crowd to tears. Before we begin today's story, please leave a comment below indicating your location. And if you enjoy heartwarming stories about police dogs like this one, remember to subscribe. Prepare for what's about to unfold. The Westfield shopping center was filled with the usual weekend shopping activity. Families with strollers filled with bags, teenagers gathered around the food court, and a continuous blend of 1,000 conversations filled the space under the large glass ceiling. Afternoon sunlight shone through the skylights, creating warm areas on the polished tile floors as shoppers moved through the busy walkways between stores. Jessica Winters navigated the Saturday crowd with a practiced and efficient manner, her steps deliberate and measured. Beside her walked Echo, a Belgian Malinois wearing a professional red service vest with medical alert patches. Unlike the hurried shoppers who bumped shoulders and moved around each other, Echo moved with military precision, maintaining a perfect heel position despite the chaos, his attentive brown eyes occasionally glancing up at Jessica's face to check her status. "Excuse me, please," Jessica said as they moved past a group of teenagers who had stopped suddenly to take selfies in front of a clothing display. She kept her right hand lightly on Echo's specialized mobility harness, not because she required the physical support that day, but because the connection helped her feel stable amidst the overwhelming sights and sounds of the mall. The holiday decorations had already been put up, even though Thanksgiving was still 2 weeks away. Large silver and red decorations were suspended from the ceiling, and artificial pine garlands adorned the railings of the second-floor walkways. A faint piano version of Winter Wonderland played from afar, struggling to be heard over the noise of the crowd, the sounds of conversations, squeaking stroller wheels, and periodic announcements from the mall's public address system. Jessica glanced at her watch. It was 2:17 p.m. She had planned this trip carefully, arriving after the lunch rush but before the evening crowd descended. Her mental checklist was almost finished. New running shoes, the birthday gift for her niece, and one more stop at the bookstore to pick up the novel her book club was reading next. Then she could return to the quiet sanctuary of her apartment before the familiar tension in her shoulders escalated into a full-blown anxiety attack. Echo stayed calm and composed, his training clearly visible in his deliberate actions. He didn't behave like typical dogs who might investigate spilled food or react to appealing smells. Instead, he concentrated entirely on Jessica and any possible dangers to her safety. When a young child unexpectedly cried at a store called Toyland, Echo quickly assessed Jessica's response, prepared to offer deep pressure therapy should the noise upset her. Fortunately, this was a positive day. Jessica reacted with a slight flinch, then proceeded walking with a deep breath. The central court of the mall appeared before them, a circular space featuring a decorative fountain and benches for weary shoppers to rest. Jessica guided them toward the quieter path along the perimeter, avoiding the congested group of people observing a weekend product demonstration. Echo modified his speed seamlessly, guiding their path as though he and Jessica functioned as one unit within the crowd, their synchronicity stemming from countless hours of shared experience. Jessica had not always required Echo's presence. 5 years ago, she was Staff Sergeant Jessica Winters, a combat medic with the 4th Infantry Division, recognized for maintaining remarkable composure amidst the most severe mass casualty events. She had treated wounded soldiers under fire, stabilized blast injuries in helicopters, and once performed an emergency airway procedure during a sandstorm with almost zero visibility. Her commanding officers had described her as unshakable. Then occurred the roadside bomb outside Kandahar. Jessica had been the first to respond, treating 3 critically wounded soldiers while awaiting medevac. She had rescued all 3, but the 4th, her closest friend on the deployment, had died despite her desperate efforts. The consequences were stark: traumatic brain injury, shrapnel wounds to her left leg, and the unseen wounds of PTSD that ultimately proved more debilitating than her physical injuries. Returning to civilian life had become a minefield of triggers. Crowds, sudden noises, certain smells that instantly transported her back to the worst moments of her service. She explored therapy, medication, and support groups, but none provided complete relief until the VA's service dog program paired her with Echo 3 years ago. Echo was a unique service dog. This Belgian Malinois had been removed from a military working dog program, not due to a lack of skill, but because of his gentle nature, a characteristic that made him ideally suited for medical alert duties. His specialized training encompassed recognizing the minute biochemical alterations that foreshadow Jessica's panic attacks and seizures, a complication stemming from her TBI that occurred infrequently but posed a significant risk. He is observing your body chemistry, the trainer had clarified during their placement. Variations in your respiration, minuscule perspiration, and even alterations in your walk that you won't perceive deliberately. Echo will provide a warning before you are even aware of an issue. Their bond had developed past the boundaries of training. Echo possessed a remarkable skill in evaluating risks in Jessica's surroundings, differentiating between minor anxieties and real threats. He would position his body to shield Jessica from anything potentially triggering, whether approaching strangers or sudden movements, while largely remaining unnoticed during everyday interactions. Above all, Echo had restored Jessica's independence. Prior to this, she had rarely left her apartment, neglecting medical appointments and withdrawing from friends and family. Currently, she volunteers twice weekly at the VA hospital, has restarted her nursing education, and can navigate public spaces like this mall, still challenging but achievable with Echo's consistent support and alerting abilities. Many people didn't realize that beneath Echo's calm professional appearance lay a dog capable of detecting incredibly small chemical shifts, changes undetectable by human senses or medical instruments. His alerts stemmed not only from excellent training, but also from a complex biological detection system combined with steadfast loyalty. Jessica directed Echo towards the central court fountain, intending to cross over to reach the bookstore on the opposite side. As they walked past a row of benches near the fountain, Echo's demeanor shifted, his ears pricked forward, his head lifted slightly higher, and his gait lost its fluid rhythm for a brief moment. Jessica noticed it instantly, having spent 3 years together. Even the slightest changes in Echo's behavior registered like alarm bells. "What is it, buddy?" she murmured, scanning the area for potential triggers. Echo's attention had fixed on something ahead and to their right. Jessica's attention followed his gaze to a navy blue stroller situated next to a bench. A woman, seemingly in her 30s and with dark hair styled in a loose bun, was organizing shopping bags nearby. The baby in the stroller seemed to be sleeping calmly under a thin blanket featuring cartoon elephants. Jessica softly adjusted Echo's harness, trying to get his attention. "Come on, focus." However, instead of following her instruction, Echo's body became even more rigid. A soft whine came from him, a sound Jessica had seldom heard from her well-trained service dog. Echo moved closer to the stroller, abandoning his heel position for the first time in public that Jessica could recall. "Echo, heel," Jessica instructed more sternly, feeling a blush rise on her cheeks as a nearby elderly couple looked in their direction. Service dogs were meant to be unobtrusive in public spaces. That was the expectation. Echo had never deviated from protocol in this way before. The dog obeyed with evident hesitation, returning to her side while still watching the stroller. After 3 more steps, Echo stopped abruptly, firmly placing his feet and declining to budge from the stroller's line of sight. "Is something the matter with your dog?" the mother inquired, observing Echo's focused attention. Her voice carried a trace of irritation as she looked between her shopping bags and the service dog. "I'm sorry," Jessica started, but Echo interrupted her apology with a quick, forceful bark that resonated across the central court. People shopping turned towards the sound, their faces showing a mix of curiosity and disapproval. "Control your dog, please," the mother stated, her annoyance now clear. "You're frightening my baby." However, the baby hadn't moved at the loud bark, a detail that Jessica's training immediately recognized as odd. Typically, sleeping infants would react with a start to such a sound. Echo barked once more, then again, his barks becoming increasingly urgent. It wasn't aggression. Jessica understood Echo's behaviors completely. It was an alert, mirroring the pattern he exhibited when sensing a potential medical crisis. "Ma'am, I believe," Jessica began, but the mother interrupted her. "Service dogs shouldn't bark in public. the woman retorted, rising and moving defensively toward her stroller. You need to leave. Two mall security guards, both wearing navy blue uniforms, moved towards the disturbance. The taller guard, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair, and a name tag identifying him as Wilson, spoke to Jessica. Ma'am, we've received reports of your dog causing a disturbance for shoppers. Is everything all right? Echo continued to bark, pulling towards the stroller with unusual focus. Jessica felt as though many people were watching her, judging, and presuming she lacked control over her service dog. The demands to apologize and depart were intense, yet Echo's actions conveyed a contrasting message, one that years of collaboration had shown her to be reliable in interpreting. My service dog is medically trained, Jessica stated, working to maintain a composed tone. He is specifically alerting to something concerning regarding that baby. This isn't typical behavior for him. The second security guard, a younger woman with her hair pulled back in a tight ponytail, approached the mother. Ma'am, would you please check on your child, just to be cautious? This is absurd, the mother protested. She's fine. Simply taking her afternoon nap. I'm only shopping for less than an hour. Wilson frowned, visibly uneasy with the circumstances. Ma'am, he addressed Jessica, service animals are not permitted to be disruptive in public spaces. Mall policy dictates that. I'm aware of mall policy, Jessica responded, her voice revealing the influence of her military training. Echo wasn't issuing this alert arbitrarily. He was detecting a medically significant issue. Echo had now activated his complete medical alert sequence, sitting stiffly, vocalizing with a characteristic 3 barks, then pawing the ground. This was the same pattern he exhibited when identifying Jessica's rare seizures in advance, a behavior that had prevented serious injury on multiple occasions. Look, Jessica stated, referencing her medical experience, I served as a combat medic. Echo is programmed to recognize specific medical crises. There's an issue with that baby, and each moment we spend debating could be critical. Jessica initially encountered Echo on a rainy Tuesday at the Patriot Service Dogs Training Center in Colorado, recently completing intensive therapy and still using a cane for her left leg. She initially doubted a dog could achieve what medication and counseling had not. Instead of the warm welcome Jessica anticipated, Echo approached her cautiously, deliberately sniffing her hands, her legs, and her breath. He then settled directly in front of her, his eyes fixed on her face as if committing every detail to memory. The turning point in their partnership occurred 3 months into their training. Their initial period had presented difficulties. Jessica's fluctuating symptoms required Echo to identify patterns that even medical devices sometimes failed to detect. The team utilized scent samples gathered during Jessica's pre-seizure states, anxiety attacks, and normal days to train Echo to distinguish between them. Subsequently, one evening, while Jessica was having coffee with her roommate, Echo abruptly initiated his alert behavior, remaining rigid, emitting 3 distinct barks, then pawing the ground. Jessica felt well and initially attributed it to a training mistake. Echo, settle, she commanded. Instead of following instructions, Echo had turned to her roommate, Diane, repeating the alert pattern with increasing urgency. Maybe he needs to go out? Diane suggested, rising. She had taken 2 steps when she collapsed to the floor. Paramedics later confirmed she had experienced a dangerous blood sugar crash that could have resulted in a coma if she had been alone. Echo hadn't been alerting for Jessica at all. He recognized Diane's declining glucose levels, a condition she hadn't received a diagnosis for at that time. Following that day, Jessica's faith in Echo became unwavering. Whenever he provided an alert, she responded, irrespective of whether she experienced any symptoms herself. That established history of trust is what provided Jessica with the assurance to maintain her position now. Although met with skeptical looks and the mother's initial hesitation, Echo had gained her confidence through demonstrated dependability, and she was committed to supporting his warning, regardless of any awkwardness. A small group of people had assembled, whispering amongst themselves. An older woman approached. Perhaps you should examine the baby, dear. It's better to be cautious. The mother's certainty lessened a little as she looked at her child, who remained perfectly still. She claimed to be a deep sleeper, but a note of doubt entered her voice. Your baby hasn't reacted to any sounds, Jessica remarked gently. Not even a flinch at Echo's barking. That wasn't typical behavior for an infant. The mother's face changed as she processed this. She turned to the stroller, her shoulders showing strain. Please, please, Jessica said, her voice becoming more gentle. Echo has never been incorrect about a medical alert. Not in 3 years. My concern for your daughter prompted my request. The security guards looked at each other, appearing uncertain about the appropriate procedure for this uncommon circumstance. Wilson approached the stroller. Ma'am, may we briefly examine the situation? He asked. Then everyone can resume their activities. The mother paused, then agreed, moving towards the stroller. Very well. I'll demonstrate that she is simply sleeping, and then I anticipate an apology. Jessica remained behind, ensuring Echo stayed calm as the mother bent over the stroller and carefully pulled back the blanket with the elephant design. The woman's annoyed look quickly changed, and color left her face. Madison, she said, her voice growing louder. When the baby didn't react, she touched her daughter's cheek. Madison, wake up, baby. The security guard stepped forward instantly as the mother's voice rose to panic. She's not waking up. Tears streamed down her face as she desperately unfastened the stroller's buckles. If something's wrong, please help. Wilson quickly radioed for medical help, and his partner assisted the mother in lifting the unresponsive infant from the stroller. The baby's lips were slightly bluish, and while her chest rose with shallow breaths, she didn't respond to her mother's increasingly frantic efforts to rouse her. I'm a former combat medic, Jessica stated, stepping forward with composure. Can I assist while we await medical personnel? The mother nodded vigorously, tears running down her face as Jessica drew near. Echo remained calm, his earlier urgent alerting now replaced by watchful observation. Jessica assessed the baby's vital signs with practiced skill. She is breathing, but it's shallow. Pulse is detectable but weak. Jessica turned to the mother. Has Madison been unwell recently? Are there any existing medical concerns? No, nothing, the mother responded, stammering. During her routine checkup last week, everything was perfect. She simply fell asleep while shopping. An older man then approached from the assembled group. I'm Dr. Brenner, a pediatrician, he stated. May I examine her? With the mother's consent, the doctor rapidly assessed the infant. Pupils are responsive but sluggish, he observed. Temperature appears normal. He turned to Jessica and spoke softly. This looks neurological. How long has she been unresponsive? I don't know, the mother cried. She fell asleep approximately 40 minutes ago. She typically sleeps soundly during shopping trips. The movement of the stroller. Her voice faltered as the realization struck her. Oh God, has she been like this the entire time? I believed she was simply sleeping. Mall medical staff arrived with a first aid kit and oxygen. Shortly after, paramedics navigated the crowd with a gurney and pediatric medical equipment. Service dogs signaled to the baby. Dr. Brenner briefed the paramedics. The infant is unresponsive, but breathing. Possible neurological event is suspected. As the paramedics commenced their assessment, the lead EMT observed Echo, a Belgian Malinois medical alert dog. These dogs are remarkable scent detectors. Last year, we had one alert to a carbon monoxide victim who exhibited no visible symptoms. Their olfactory capabilities are extraordinary, Dr. Brenner stated, watching Echo with renewed respect. Certain studies indicate they can identify molecular changes at concentrations as low as parts per trillion. Finding it is comparable to locating a single drop of blood within 20 Olympic swimming pools. The medical uses are still being explored, especially for illnesses where early diagnosis significantly enhances results. Ramirez nodded as he secured a pulse oximeter to Madison's small finger. He had observed dogs detecting seizures prior to clinical signs, identifying malignancies before scans could, and even forecasting cardiac events. This little one is lucky that you and your partner were present today. Amber Parker, holding her daughter's hand, whispered, Your dog knew. How could he possibly know when I didn't? The paramedics responded with practice speed, securing the infant to the pediatric backboard and connecting monitoring devices. Paramedic Ramirez examined the readings, his expression concerned. Oxygen saturation is lower than I'd like, he observed, placing a small oxygen mask over Madison's face. These readings indicate potential seizure activity, though without convulsions. We are considering the possibility of absence seizures or a postictal state. What does that mean? Will she be all right? Amber asked, holding her daughter's hand. We need to transfer her to Children's Hospital for a definitive diagnosis, Ramirez stated. Fortunately, we are identifying this early, preventing potential oxygen deprivation that could cause harm. While a female paramedic was rechecking Madison's vital signs, she paused, moving closer to observe something. Ms. Parker, has Madison received any medications recently? The paramedic inquired. No, none, Amber replied. She has never taken medication. The paramedic indicated faint markings on the inner side of Madison's elbow. These appear to be injection sites, but they are very small, the type we sometimes see with specific medical tests. Amber stated, with evident confusion, that the only injection her child had received was for routine vaccinations during the checkup last week. Dr. Brenner examined the marks and frowned. He noted that these were more recent than a week ago and did not align with typical vaccination injections. Echo immediately became alert, focusing intently on the diaper bag hanging from the stroller handle. Jessica recognized this particular behavior. Echo had identified something significant. Ma'am, Jessica said cautiously. Would you mind if we examined Madison's diaper bag? Echo is signaling something within. Amber agreed promptly. Any prior doubts disappeared. Naturally, anything that could assist. Security Officer Wilson took the bag, and Jessica directed Echo through a methodical scent examination. The dog quickly pinpointed a side pocket, persistently nudging it with his nose, employing the method he uses for identifying substances. Within the pocket, a small medicine bottle was discovered, labeled as infant acetaminophen, though the security seal was broken and the bottle was only half full. I didn't place that there, Amber stated, her face growing paler. That's not our brand, and Madison hasn't required any pain medication. Ramirez carefully placed the bottle in an evidence bag. We'll have this analyzed at the hospital. It's possible it contains another substance or has been altered. The second paramedic spoke with urgency. Madison's oxygen levels are decreasing. Immediate transport is required. As preparations began to move Madison, Echo whimpered gently and rested his head against Jessica's leg. This was his way of indicating that his task was complete. He had identified the underlying issue well before human observation of the symptoms, potentially averting a significantly more severe outcome. Your dog is remarkable, Dr. Brenner told Jessica as the paramedics began moving the gurney. For 30 years, I have worked in pediatrics, and I observed no outward signs of distress in that child. Yet, he recognized the situation instantly. Amber, accompanying the gurney, glanced back at Jessica. Thank you, she said, tears flowing down her face. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. If you hadn't insisted, she was unable to complete the sentence. Thank Echo, Jessica responded quietly. He is the hero here. The Central Court had been converted into a temporary command center. Police officers arrived soon after Madison was transported, establishing a perimeter around the stroller. A bottle from the diaper bag was now considered evidence in what the lead detective described as a possible instance of intentional drugging. Echo remained composed beside Jessica as she provided her statement to Detective Portman, a woman with a serious expression and kind eyes who documented every aspect of Echo's warning actions with considerable interest. According to Portman, the dog identified a problem with the child prior to any outward signs of illness. Jessica corroborated this, confirming that Echo possesses specialized scent detection training for medical emergencies. He is capable of identifying chemical alterations within the body that signify specific medical occurrences. Jessica further stated that Echo specifically indicated the diaper bag after the child received treatment. She explained that he exhibits distinct alert patterns depending on the circumstances. His actions concerning the bag indicate he perceived a substance present, rather than solely a medical issue. Portman added another notation. Ms. Parker stated the baby had a checkup last week. We are investigating who may have accessed the child or her belongings since that time. Wilson arrived accompanied by the mall manager, a tense woman wearing a charcoal suit, who identified herself as Diane Reynolds. Ms. Winters, Reynolds stated, I want to express my sincere gratitude to you and your service dog for your actions today. Our security team will be reviewing our protocols concerning service animal alerts. She looked at Wilson, who appeared suitably concerned. We recognize there are some areas where we need to improve our training. Echo was simply performing his train tasks, Jessica responded. Wilson added, the hospital contacted us with an update. The baby is showing signs of stabilization. Medical tests were underway, but the doctor mentioned that a further delay in treatment could have had serious consequences, then stopped speaking, leaving the meaning unstated. A young woman who had been shopping in the vicinity approached cautiously. I filmed what occurred using my phone, she stated. I didn't mean to be odd, but my brother is applying to service dog programs, and I wish to demonstrate how they function in public settings. She then asked if the footage would be beneficial to the police. Detective Portman promptly collected the woman's contact details. That could be extremely valuable evidence, thank you. As the crowd gradually dispersed, an elderly man approached Jessica. Young lady, I want you to know I've contacted the local news. People need to hear about this, not just about the unfortunate situation with the baby, but about the incredible work service dogs like yours perform. Jessica experienced a moment of worry regarding potential media coverage, but Echo instinctively leaned against her leg, offering the calming pressure that helped manage her nervous system. She inhaled deeply, concentrating on the most important aspects. Madison was undergoing treatment, an inquiry was in progress, and Echo had performed as he was trained. The police concluded securing the area while Jessica and Echo were readying to depart. Officer Wilson approached them at the mall entrance. He offered a sincere apology to both of us. 20 years in security and I've never seen anything like what your dog did today, he said. If we'd followed protocol and asked you to leave, he shook his head, expressing gratitude for your resolve. As Jessica and Echo walked through the parking lot toward her car, the adrenaline from the incident began to fade, leaving her physically drained but mentally clear. She stopped beside her SUV, kneeling down to bring herself eye level with her partner. You did good, buddy, she whispered, gently stroking Echo's face and neck. Really good. Echo's perceptive eyes stayed focused on hers, his expression reflecting complete satisfaction now that his task was finished. He moved closer, touching his forehead against Jessica's in the familiar gesture they frequently shared following challenging situations. Jessica reflected on how she almost questioned Echo due to societal expectations, the looks, the security personnel, the mother's initial displeasure. Apologizing and leaving would have been simpler, attributing Echo's behavior to a temporary lapse. The pressure of public opinion had nearly eclipsed years of collaboration and mutual trust, but Echo remained unwavering, continuing until someone acknowledged his perspective. His conviction prevented a child from a situation paramedics believed could have been intentional drugging. The realization sent a shiver down Jessica's spine, even under the warmth of the afternoon sun. As Jessica started the engine, a text from her VA counselor appeared on her phone. It referenced the news alert about a service dog saving a baby at Westfield. Could that have been Echo and her? The counselor suggested she call if she needed support following the event. News spread rapidly. By tomorrow, reporters would likely be calling, potentially requesting interviews. Ordinarily, this would cause a surge of anxiety, but surprisingly, it felt different this time. Sharing their experiences might help people recognize the crucial role service dogs play, not only in assisting their handlers, but also in safeguarding the broader community. Echo relaxed into his seat, his alert stance softening into a calm watchfulness, ever prepared but no longer sensing immediate threats. Jessica met his look in the rearview mirror, feeling a wave of thankfulness for this remarkable animal who had profoundly changed her life and now had protected someone else. Believe in your dog. This was the initial instruction in service dog training, the basis for all subsequent commands. Recent events had demonstrated why this belief wasn't merely training protocol, but significant insight. Occasionally, a companion could detect things beyond human perception and human assessment. Occasionally, trust meant the difference between a disaster and a fortunate outcome. Have you ever observed an instance where an animal detected something humans entirely overlooked? What accounts for some animals' remarkable ability to sense medical emergencies even before symptoms are apparent? Would you have believed a service dog's alert regarding a stranger's baby, despite the potential for embarrassment? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories of heroic service animals. Click the bell icon to receive notifications when we upload new videos each week. Please share this video with friends and family who value the special connection between people and their service animals. Watch our previous stories about canine heroes now, and tune in tomorrow at the same time for another inspiring story you won't want to miss. A police officer is sentenced to death for a murder he maintains he did not commit. As time dwindles, his devoted German shepherd refuses to abandon hope, sensing a truth others miss. Then, just days before the execution, the dog performs an extraordinary act that alters the course of events. But will this astounding revelation arrive too late to save his partner's life? And what dangerous secret has been concealed so thoroughly that only a dog's instincts could reveal it? Please share in the comments below where you're watching from. If you enjoy extraordinary canine stories like this one, remember to subscribe. You won't want to miss future episodes. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in courtroom March 11, 10, casting harsh shadows across Jack Calloway's face. 15 years spent on the Portland police force had taught him to manage his expressions, but even his considerable training couldn't fully hide the tightness in his jaw as he awaited the verdict. His service weapon and badge were absent, substituted by handcuffs that pressed into his wrists. Judge Martinez's gavel broke the heavy silence. Has the jury reached a verdict? The jury forewoman rose, her voice trembling a little as she opened the paper she held. Jack's gaze swept the room with practiced precision. His lawyer, David Walsh, held his pen with such force that his knuckles were pale. District Attorney Peterson's lips curved subtly upward. In the rear, Eva Mercer remained rigidly upright, her expression carefully neutral. She had been his associate for 6 years, yet she might as well have been an unknown. Regarding the case of the state versus Jack Calloway, concerning the charge of first-degree murder, the defendant has been found. The forewoman hesitated, adjusting her voice. Guilty. The pronouncement struck Jack with a palpable force, yet he remained motionless. The courtroom filled with hushed intakes of breath and murmurs. The jury suggests execution by lethal injection. Jack tightened his jaw as his thoughts rapidly reviewed the evidence that had determined his outcome. The murder weapon discovered in his garage was free of fingerprints. The security footage depicted someone of similar stature entering Senator Harrison's residence, and a witness testified to having seen his car parked nearby that night. The evidence appeared impeccable. Almost too impeccable. However, he possessed the true account. Outside the courthouse, Bolt awaited his temporary handler. The German shepherd's ears rose at the sound of the substantial doors opening. As Jack emerged in handcuffs, Bolt's entire body stiffened. He gave a sharp bark, straining against his leash so powerfully that Officer Torres nearly lost his balance. "Easy, boy," Torres said, working to keep hold. But Bolt's barking escalated, becoming more panicked. The dog perceived a problem. He felt it with an intuition that surpassed human comprehension. From the courthouse steps, Eva watched, her hands trembling slightly as she pulled her jacket tighter against the October chill. She'd tracked down murderers with Jack, broken up drug rings, survived shootouts. Now she was watching him being taken away as one of the criminals they'd sworn to stop. The evidence had seemed solid when she'd first reviewed it. Too solid, a voice in her head whispered. Across 15 years in law enforcement, she hadn't encountered a case conclude with such precision, each element fitting seamlessly. It resembled a connect-the-dots illustration of culpability, where the connections were made without any questioning of the resulting form. Jack maintained his gaze ahead as they escorted him toward the prisoner transport van, Bolt's escalating barks reverberating against the courthouse walls. The dog's unease broke through Eva's professional composure. Throughout 4 years of service, Bolt had never been mistaken about an individual. Not a single time. As the transport van departed, Bolt's barks softened into subdued, sorrowful whimpers. The German shepherd looked toward Eva, his brown eyes conveying a level of understanding that made her pause. She crouched down next to him, stroking his dense coat. "It's all right, boy," she murmured, primarily to herself rather than to the dog. "Something feels amiss, and we will discover what it is." District Attorney Peterson walked past, his expression conveying his recent victory. "Good work today, Detective Mercer. Justice was served," he said. However, Eva detected something in his delivery. Felt like a warning, or maybe a challenge. She recalled Jack's words from 3 weeks prior, shortly before his arrest. "There's something bigger going on here, Eva. The Harrison case. It's just the surface." She had disregarded his worries then, preoccupied with the increasing evidence against him. Observing Peterson walk away, while Bolt growled quietly beside her, she pondered what her partner had uncovered that warranted framing him for murder. The van vanished around the corner, transporting Jack toward death row. Bolt's posture became rigid, his ears attentive, as if he sensed Eva's hardening determination. She rose, her decision becoming clear. Jack had instructed her that the truth wasn't always as it appeared. The moment had arrived to apply those lessons and uncover the truth surrounding Senator Harrison's death, before time expired for her partner. The metal door of cell 241 closed with a hollow clang that seemed to resonate through Jack's bones. The confined space felt like a tomb. It contained bare concrete walls, a narrow cot with a thin mattress, and a stainless steel/toilet sink combination that had seen better days. A single artificial light buzzed overhead, offering no natural illumination. "Welcome to death row, Detective," the guard stated, his voice devoid of feeling. Or, as he added, ex-detective. Jack remained still, positioned in the middle of his cell, his thoughts wrestling with the starkness of his circumstances. The sound of the guard's footsteps diminished as he walked away, leaving Jack solitary, accompanied by the echoes of metal doors, indistinct voices, and his own introspection. Across town, Eva opened the door to her apartment, Bolt following closely. She had intended to provide him with a temporary residence until alternative arrangements were finalized, but the German Shepherd appeared to have his own agenda. He moved restlessly between the door and the window, his nails tapping against the hardwood floor. Frequently, he would pause and whine, looking at Eva with eyes that seemed to convey an urgent message. Eva arranged the case files on her kitchen table, the lamp creating long shadows on the wall. She had examined them a dozen times prior to the trial, but something about Bolt's behavior at the courthouse had ignited a renewed sense of purpose. Her focus initially landed on the murder weapon, a .45 caliber pistol discovered in Jack's garage 3 days following Senator Harrison's death. The ballistics analysis confirmed a perfect match, and the gun had been meticulously cleaned to remove fingerprints. She mused it was almost excessively clean, recalling Jack's insistence on meticulous weapon upkeep. Had he employed it, there would have been traces of gun oil, rather than this pristine condition. Bolt abruptly ceased his pacing, his head turning sharply towards Eva's front door. A low growl emanated from his throat as footsteps neared in the hallway. Eva's hand automatically moved to her service weapon, but the footsteps continued past. Bolt's growl subsided, although his vigilance persisted, his body rigid and prepared. Her phone vibrated. A message from Detective Rodriguez read, "Leave it alone, Mercer. The case is closed." Eva's jaw clenched. She hadn't informed anyone that she was examining the files. The following morning, she went to the evidence lockup, displaying her badge to Officer Chin. "I need to review some items from the Harrison case." Chin seemed uneasy. "That's been sealed by the DA's office. It requires special clearance now." "Since when?" Eva asked. "Orders came down this morning." "Sorry, Eva." Returning to her desk, Eva started examining Harrison's actions prior to his death. The senator had been involved in multiple significant undertakings, but one was particularly noteworthy: a sequence of private discussions regarding the city's upcoming highway development project. Involving millions in contracts, the project had been expedited despite considerable environmental worries. Bolt, lying beneath her desk, suddenly became attentive. His ears rose as Captain Rivera neared. Mercer, Rivera's voice remained quiet but resolute, informed him of a call from the district attorney's office. They expressed concern regarding his recent investigations. It was simply a matter of finalizing outstanding details, sir. The matters are resolved. Please cease your pursuit. He hesitated, his demeanor relaxing a little. Avoid complicating the situation unnecessarily. That evening, Eva walked Bolt as they regularly did. The German Shepherd guided her along their known path, but when they neared the location of the new highway construction, he abruptly halted. He sniffed the air, guiding Eva towards a construction trailer. Situated behind it, obscured by scattered materials, she located a damaged piece of paper. Despite the deterioration from mud and water, she discerned a few words, Harrison and payment schedule. With a slight tremor in her hands, Eva photographed the fragment and then placed it in an evidence bag. Bolt remained watchful, his stance stiff, observing the surrounding shadows. A car engine started in the vicinity. Eva noticed a dark sedan driving away, its headlights extinguished. It appeared someone had been observing her. Upon returning home, Eva's computer received an encrypted communication from her contact within the forensics lab. They confirmed a match based on the partial prints she had requested, but noted an anomaly. The file had been altered, requiring a higher level of security clearance that her contact lacked. Eva was preparing to reply when Bolt's growl shattered the silence. She glanced around and saw a small red dot flickering on her wall. It was a laser sight. Without hesitation, she dropped to the floor as her window exploded inward. Glass rained down as Bolt's powerful barks filled the apartment. Eva crawled to her weapon, her heart pounding. It was clear now. She wasn't just chasing a theory anymore. She was getting close to something, and someone was willing to kill to keep it hidden. The early morning fog clung to Eva's shoes as she and Bolt approached the back entrance of the Harrison estate. Fragments of yellow police tape drifted in the breeze, a diminishing echo of the senator's tragic death. She had leveraged her connections to gain access, a final inspection of the property prior to its sale. Bolt proceeded purposefully, his nose actively analyzing the air as he tracked a scent trail perceptible only to him. Eva, experienced with numerous K-9 teams, could immediately sense when a dog had identified something significant. The German Shepherd guided her through the pristine garden, disregarding the clear access points, directly to a somewhat concealed storm cellar. This wasn't present in the initial crime scene photographs, Eva commented, observing the sturdy padlock. A swift scan with her flashlight uncovered another detail, recent scratch marks near the keyhole. Later, at the precinct, Eva was thoroughly reviewing Harrison's financial records when her computer screen abruptly went dark. A notification displayed, "System maintenance required." Access to all files was disrupted. "That's not a coincidence," she murmured to Bolt, who was watchful under her desk. 3 other detectives expressed frustration with their screens. The shutdown affected the entire department. Her disposable phone vibrated. "Meet me at Riverside Park. 1 hour." She recognized the message. I knew Harrison. The voice was male, elderly, and unknown. Eva located her informant on a quiet bench, scattering seed for pigeons. Former Judge Michael Conway retired 3 years ago following 2 decades of service on the bench. A month prior to his passing, Harrison informed me, Conway stated, without raising his gaze from the pigeons. He claimed to have uncovered details regarding the highway project, noting discrepancies in the bidding procedures, shell corporations, and millions of dollars diverted to offshore accounts. I inquired why he hadn't testified during the trial. Conway's hands shook as he tossed more breadcrumbs. He explained that the last individual Harrison shared his concerns with subsequently died in a robbery gone wrong. I then questioned him about his partner. He finally made eye contact. Calloway was getting too close. They needed him removed. A jogger approached. Conway became silent until they passed. Harrison maintained proof. Records, recordings, everything. In his, a sudden sharp sound echoed through the air. Conway lowered his head, a tiny red mark appearing on his forehead. Bolt's warning bark arrived a fraction of a second too late. Eva moved quickly to safety behind a concrete planter as another shot stirred up dirt close to her feet. Bolt remained down low, his training taking over as he directed her towards the nearest exit. They reached her car as police sirens started to sound faintly in the distance. That evening, Eva remained in her apartment, her hands still trembling as she examined her notes. Conway's final words resonated in her mind. Harrison possessed evidence. The storm cellar. It needed to be there. Her phone sounded. Jack's lawyer. They were accelerating the execution date. There were 2 weeks, possibly fewer. Eva's stomach sank. 2 weeks. It wasn't sufficient time. A scrape at her window startled her, but it was merely a tree branch. Then she observed a detail. The limb was positioned too near. It hadn't been that close yesterday. Bolt check, she instructed. The German shepherd proceeded to the window, his demeanor shifting immediately. A suppressed growl emanated from his chest. Eva cautiously drew back the drape. A compact camera had been affixed to the branch, its lens focused squarely on her desk. The following morning, she returned to the Harrison estate prior to sunrise. Her lock picks compromised the storm cellar lock after 10 fraught minutes. Bolt initiated the descent, his training evident as he swiftly cleared the area. The cellar was bare, containing only a steel filing cabinet and a laptop coated in dust. Eva felt disheartened, but Bolt began nudging a particular point on the floor. His actions were clear, he had located something. A dislodged floorboard exposed a concealed compartment. Within it, a waterproof case held precisely what Conway had described: files, USB drives, and a voice recorder. Eva had just obtained the evidence when Bolt's warning bark broke the quiet. Footsteps sounded from above. Detective Mercer's voice called down, a sound she recognized. "Find anything of note?" A chill went through her. It was Captain Rivera. He continued, "I genuinely hoped you'd be more perceptive than Calloway. That you'd grasp that certain questions are best left unanswered." His flashlight beam sliced through the gloom as he came down the stairs. Eva detected the unmistakable sound of a firearm being prepared. Bolt placed himself between Eva and the looming danger, his body tense and prepared. They were confined below ground with incriminating proof and a compromised senior officer. Regardless of what transpired next, there was no possibility of retreat. Eva's thoughts hurried as Rivera's footsteps echoed down the basement stairs. Her weapon was raised, but eliminating her captain would only confirm Jack's belief in everyone's perception. Bolt stayed completely motionless, anticipating her order. Rivera stated, his voice unusually calm, that Harrison never grasped the larger context. He added that this was similar to Jack and similar to you. A loud crash occurred from above. Bolt had tipped over a metal trash can close to the cellar entrance during their previous search. Rivera reacted immediately, turning toward the sound. Eva took advantage of the opportunity, tackling him as Bolt moved forward, grabbing Rivera's gun hand. The weapon fell down the stairs. Eva fastened Rivera's hands behind his back using restraints. "The larger issue. Are you referring to the highway project fraud?" Rivera chuckled, a grating sound in the poorly lit cellar. "Do you believe this concerns a few $1 million in construction kickbacks?" Harrison uncovered a significantly larger scheme. "Why do you suppose they worked so hard to expedite Jack's conviction?" Before Eva could reply, radio transmissions crackled from above. Rivera's reinforcements were approaching. She took the evidence case and moved further into the cellar. Bolt guided her toward a corroded maintenance tunnel, a means of escape absent from any architectural drawings. They appeared 2 blocks away precisely as police sirens approached the Harrison estate. Eva's disposable phone vibrated. A message arrived from an unidentified sender. "Storage Unit 247, Riverside Rentals, code 5891. Proceed quickly." The storage facility stood empty upon their arrival. Unit 247's lock disengaged, exposing a limited area holding just a laptop and a manila envelope. The laptop activated, displaying a video file already prepared. Senator Harrison's face appeared on the screen, the timestamp indicating 3 days prior to his murder. The message began, "If you are viewing this, I am likely deceased. What I have discovered extends beyond corruption. The highway project serves as a disguise. The construction company, the offshore accounts, they all conceal something significantly greater. Criminal enterprises, including international drug trafficking and weapon shipments, are utilizing our port. Law enforcement, judicial figures, and city officials appear to be complicit. I have gathered evidence implicating everyone, including. The recording ended unexpectedly. Eva examined the manila envelope, discovering photographs of prominent officials at clandestine gatherings, financial records detailing substantial transfers, and a roster of individuals. Her hands shook as she identified them: judges, politicians, and senior police personnel. Alongside each name, a corresponding number appeared, presumably indicating their share of the undertaking. Bolt's cautionary growl resonated just as the storage unit's door violently shut, casting them into complete darkness. The sound of a padlock securing itself reverberated within the restricted area. "Detective Mercer?" A voice called out from beyond the door. "District Attorney Peterson." A statement followed. "I have to admit, you've been more persistent than we anticipated, but this ends now." The distinct odor of gasoline drifted in from beneath the door. Eva's heart pounded as she listened to liquid being poured near the unit. "It's unfortunate," Peterson said. "A distressed detective, struggling with her partner's conviction, experiences a devastating accident while investigating conspiracy theories. That's the story the newspapers will present." Eva felt along the unit's rear wall, locating what she had observed previously: a maintenance panel weakened by age. As Peterson spoke at length outside, she silently worked it free. The service weapon would be located in the ashes, naturally, along with any evidence you believe you've uncovered. A regrettable conclusion, but unavoidable. The clear sound of a lighter igniting prompted Eva to move. She forced open the panel, entering a confined maintenance corridor. Bolt followed closely as flames erupted behind them. They reached the open air as smoke began pouring from the storage facility. Eva had succeeded in concealing the laptop and key documents within her jacket, though she anticipated Peterson would believe everything had been destroyed. Her phone vibrated. A message arrived from Jack's attorney. The execution date was established: 8 days. Eva glanced at Bolt. His fur soiled from their flight, yet his eyes were watchful and prepared. They possessed the evidence now, sufficient to reveal everything. However, with Jack's execution expedited and dishonest officials present at all levels, time was dwindling. A notification sounded on her disposable phone. Another message from an unknown sender. "They are transporting something significant through the port tomorrow night. Pier 23. This is what Harrison lost his life attempting to reveal." Eva stroked Bolt's ears, her determination strengthening. "What do you say, boy? A final opportunity to dismantle them all?" Bolt's firm bark was the response she required. 7 days remained until Jack's scheduled execution. Eva positioned her car near Pier 23, Bolt watchful in the rear seat. The port security cameras had inexplicably stopped functioning 10 minutes prior. Through her binoculars, she observed unmarked trucks maneuvering to the rear of a recently arrived cargo ship. "This is Detective Mercer," she murmured into her encrypted radio. "Activity confirmed at Pier 23. Standing by for federal response." Following her escape from the storage fire, she had reached out to the one person she could still trust, FBI agent Sarah Chun, who had previously collaborated with Jack on a joint task force years ago. The evidence Eva had secured was now safely in federal custody, but more was required. They needed to apprehend the individuals involved. Bolt's quiet growl alerted her to activity on the pier. A recognizable figure emerged from a black SUV, Captain Rivera, having been released on bail just hours ago. He was accompanied by District Attorney Peterson and a man Eva identified from Harrison's photos, Marcus Reynolds, CEO of the construction company at the core of the situation. Her radio transmitted a message: "All units maintain current positions." A sudden, forceful rap on her passenger window startled Eva. She turned to see Peterson there, a gun pointed at her head. "You're becoming a real problem, Detective," he said, his smile chilling in the darkness. "Get out of the car. Both of you." As Eva exited, Bolt following closely, she observed other people stepping out of the shadows. They had been anticipating her. "Your persistence is admirable," Peterson stated, leading them toward the pier. "But did you truly believe we wouldn't be monitoring you? That we didn't anticipate your actions?" Rivera moved closer, manipulating Eva's radio. Reinforcements from the federal government aren't arriving. That frequency has been compromised for several hours. They were directed to the location where Reynolds was watching the unloading process. Boxes were rapidly moved from the ship to the trucks. You find it amusing, don't you? Reynolds commented without looking at Eva. Jack nearly understood everything. The construction project, the port access, everything. He concentrated excessively on Harrison and neglected to scrutinize his own department. You are correct, Eva responded, her hand moving slowly to her back. He should have. Bolt's ears twitched at the sound of footsteps on metal overhead. Eva smiled. However, I did. Gunfire erupted as FBI snipers opened fire from the surrounding cargo containers. The genuine raid team had never employed the radio. That was a diversion intended to elicit their observation. Disorder broke out on the pier. Peterson raised his weapon, but Bolt acted more swiftly, propelling himself at the DA with practiced accuracy. Eva took cover as gunfire began from multiple directions. FBI. Everyone on the ground. Through the confusion, Eva noticed Rivera moving toward a vehicle. She gave chase with Bolt close behind as FBI teams took control of the area. Preventing Rivera's escape was crucial. He represented their connection to everyone implicated, extending to the highest echelons. The pursuit led them through a complex arrangement of cargo containers. Rivera was attempting to reach a waiting boat. They had only seconds to prevent him. Bolt, stop him, Eva ordered. The German shepherd surged forward, a swift display of focused strength, precisely as Rivera arrived at the boat's ladder. Bolt's jaws closed on Rivera's leg, causing him to fall heavily onto the dock. As Eva restrained him, Rivera exclaimed, "You have no idea what you've done." As others learned, they already knew, Eva interrupted, noting the increasing number of FBI vehicles. "We didn't just target you tonight. Teams are engaging with judges, politicians, and police officials throughout the city." It's finished. Her phone vibrated. A message from Agent Chun. Evidence secured. Proceeding to the governor's office now. Instruct Jack to remain. Eva glanced at her watch. 6 days, 13 hours remained until the execution. For the first time in weeks, she permitted herself a glimmer of hope. A chill ran down her spine, even as Rivera's laughter echoed as she led him away in cuffs. "You really think this is over?" She wondered. There's still time for accidents to happen, especially in prison. 20 hours remained until Jack's execution. Despite the FBI raids and mounting evidence, the governor hadn't signed the stay of execution. Eva paced the prison's administrative office while Bolt sat alert by the door. "Someone's blocking our access to the governor," Agent Chin explained, frustration evident in her voice. "Whenever we approach a resolution, we're being rerouted to less senior personnel. They appear to be delaying action." Eva's phone received a notification. It was an encrypted message from an unidentified sender. "Loading dock. Prison kitchen. Midnight. Your partner will not survive until morning." She presented the message to Chun. "They are planning their operation tonight. We cannot initiate a movement of Jack without the necessary approval," Chun cautioned. "If we are incorrect, the consequences will be significant." Eva glanced at her watch. It was 11:45 p.m., and we have exhausted our available time. The prison's loading dock lay in shadows and silence as Eva and Bolt established their concealed location. Using her night vision scope, she identified 3 individuals near the kitchen entrance. One was dressed in a guard's uniform. "Target confirmed," she murmured into her radio. "They're here." The compromised guard unlocked the door, and 2 additional figures entered. Eva identified one by his characteristic limp. Marcus Reynolds himself had arrived to guarantee Jack's silence. "Hold position," Chen's voice crackled in Eva's earpiece. Minutes passed slowly. Eva's heart raced as she pictured them moving through the prison's corridors toward death row. Toward Jack. Suddenly, Bolt's ears twitched. A different sound. A vehicle approaching rapidly from behind. "We've got company," Eva warned, but it was too late. Floodlights burst on, revealing the loading dock. They had entered a trap. Detective Mercer, District Attorney Peterson's voice, resonated through a megaphone. He had secured bail just hours prior. Did you genuinely believe we'd permit your interference? Gunfire broke out from several locations. Eva and Bolt took cover behind concrete barriers as bullets ricocheted off metal nearby. Over her radio, she heard Chen's team clashing with hostiles on the opposite side of the prison. Chun is dividing our forces. Reynolds is still moving toward Jack. Chun shouted back over the sound of gunfire, "Little busy here." Eva looked at Bolt and saw the same determination in his eyes that she felt. "Ready, boy?" The German shepherd's muscles tensed in response. They moved as one, Eva providing covering fire while Bolt charged forward, a focused missile of fur and fury. He crashed into the nearest gunman, creating the opening they needed. They sprinted for the kitchen entrance, bullets tracking their path. Within, they detected the sound of footsteps resonating along the corridor leading to death row. A contest was unfolding, and failure was not an option. The execution chamber awaited at the corridor's conclusion. This time, there would be no further opportunities. 2 months later, Jack Calloway stood in the morning sunlight outside the courthouse, Bolt positioned beside him. The press conference had just concluded. The investigation revealed a sprawling corruption scheme involving 37 indictments, including 2 judges, the district attorney, and multiple high-ranking police officials. The corruption network that had nearly cost Jack his life was finally exposed. Eva observed from the sidelines as Jack knelt to ruffle Bolt's fur. The German shepherd's tail wagged with unrestrained joy, a stark contrast to his desperate barks on that fateful day of the conviction. Some attributed their discovery of the truth to mere luck, but Eva knew better. Occasionally, the most dependable evaluator of character walked on 4 legs. If you found this story as remarkable as we did, please share it with fellow K9 and true crime enthusiasts. What moment kept you captivated? Let us know in the comments below. We're also interested to know where in the world you are watching this compelling story of loyalty and justice from. Share your location in the comments. Ring that notification bell to ensure you never miss an upload. For more amazing K9 cases, please view our latest videos now. Until next time, remember, sometimes the biggest heroes have 4 paws and a badge.